Good morning, students. Today we are going to see a new lesson, classification. It's a branch of science that deals with grouping of living and all the living organisms. Okay, so it is called taxonomy. Taxonomy is a branch of science which deals with the classification of living organisms. Why the living organism should be classified? Need. What is the need? Only then, in the beginning, they have all the plants, animals, and microorganisms, macroorganisms, everything together. And some plants grow in forest, some plants grow in desert. Okay, some animals live in the ocean, some animals live on the land, some animals live in air. So, on the basis of the habitat, they started classifying. They classified on the basis of habitat the plants as hydrophytes, mesophytes, xerophytes. And if you take mesophytes, rose plant also mesophyte, mango tree also mesophyte. Both are not same. So they are not satisfied with that. Okay. Then they started classifying the animals also same like that on the basis of the habitat, arboreal, aerial, aquatic, terrestrial. Aquatic, if you take freshwater and ocean. If you take these two, in ocean itself, numerous organisms, various different types, different size, different color. Okay, the mode of nutrition, everything changes. So, in order to get them into proper groups, they started classifying. Okay, so if you want to learn about new organisms, whether it is a plant or an animal, whether it is a microscopic or macroscopic, we have to classify. That is the need. Then, what are the advantages of classification? Only when we group them, we can utilize them in our life. For example, only when we know that which and all will produce, which and all will come under the plant kingdom, they can produce their own food, autotrophs. So that can be utilized for the food for other living organisms. So food chain. So in order to get that food chain, in order to maintain that food chain, in order to maintain the ecosystem, in order to maintain the environment, we have to do this classification. And suppose if we find any new organisms, we want to know whether which category it belongs, whether it is a microscopic or macroscopic, or plant or animal, whether it lives in a desert or in the water. So we have to, only when we know this classification, we can put them in the proper group. We can study about the new organisms. Okay, so all these are the advantages for the classification. Then, classification system. So they started classifying unicellular, multicellular, on the base of the habitat, everything. Then at last, they decided to follow the classification. And we are going to see the two main classification systems. In that system, they follow kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. Kingdom, plant kingdom and animal kingdom. Okay, all the plants and the plant kingdom. And it includes number of phylum, which have all the organisms which have the similar characteristics. So we can start from here. The organisms which have the similar characteristics are grouped. The species are grouped into genus. The similar characteristics of genus are grouped into families. Similar characteristics of families are grouped into order. Similar characteristics of orders grouped into class. So class into phylum, phylum into kingdom. So species is the basic unit of classification. Okay, kingdom is a higher unit, species is the basic unit of classification. So both for plants and animals, they are using this criteria, this system of classification systems. Then what are the criteria they are using? What is the concept? This is how they are classifying them. What are the criteria? I already told you habitat, habit. Then on the basis of the habit, they classify the plants into curved shrub and trees. On the basis of the habitat, they classify the plants into hydrophytes, mesophytes and xerophytes. Same like the animals also. Aquatic, terrestrial, aerial, airborne. So they have taken various categories and the cell, whether it is unicellular or multicellular, okay, whether they form the other stages of the organization level. So all the organization level, they consider all these things for classifications. Okay. So on the basis of this, many classifications have been done. We are going to see two classifications. One is two kingdom classification, the other one is five kingdom classification. Okay. Now, two kingdom classification. It is proposed by Carl Linnaeus. He is called as father of taxonomy. Taxonomy is a branch of science that deals with the classification. Carl Linnaeus played a very important role in that. So, he is called as father of taxonomy. He proposed two kingdom classifications. He classified all the organisms into two categories: kingdom Plantae, kingdom Animalia. Okay. Then what are the criteria he has taken? He has taken the criteria as external morphology, okay, natural characters, externally what are seen. Then cellular, whether it is unicellular or multicellular, okay, and multicellular, whether they are autotrophic or heterotrophic. Nutrition he considered. So all these characters he has taken for criteria to form his classification, two kingdom classification. And not only this two kingdom classification proposed by him, he also introduced, if you want to do this classification, if you want to study about any organisms, it has to be given a name which can be universally accepted. Okay, then only it will be easier. So he introduced binomial nomenclature, scientific name, binomial nomenclature. Through binomial nomenclature, he tried to give scientific names for all the living organisms which can be accepted universally. Why the scientific names should be used? Suppose if I want to do a research in mango, okay, and I will do the research and I will prepare my thesis and I have to submit it, ICBN, it has to accept. So when I write my thesis, I know only English, so I will be writing mango, mango, mango. Suppose a person, the same mango, a person one who knows only Telugu, he will be writing his thesis as Mavadikai or Mavadi Pandu. And one who knows only Hindi, he will be mentioning the name in Hindi. Okay, so whatever he says about Mavadi Pandu, I will be thinking he is talking about some other thing, because I know mango as mango. Okay, so in order to avoid this confusion, each organism should be given a scientific name. This is said by Carolus Linnaeus. And this scientific name should be two words. One is generic name, the other one is specific name. In the previous we have seen the classification system and genus and species. Other species, last category, next to the genus. So generic name and specific name. This generic name and specific name should be written. See, for example, if I want to give the mention mango, what I am doing research. Mangifera indica. So this is the generic name. This generic name should start with a capital letter and specific name should start with small letter. There should be a space between these two. And same name should not be repeated. So all these are the rules to follow this scientific name, binomial nomenclature. And when we give any new name for that scientific name, we have to keep the specimen along with that, with their characteristic features, pressed and kept in the herbarium sheet. We have to send it to the ICPM, International Code of Botanical Nomenclature. They will accept. When they accept, they will go through and accept, then it will be universally accepted. Okay? So that the system of binomial system of nomenclature also introduced by Carolus Linnaeus. But this two kingdom system is not accepted because, see, plant chain, he classified all the plants into one kingdom, plant chain. On the base of, suppose if you take on the base of the nutrition, all the organisms which can prepare their own food, plantain. All the organisms which cannot prepare their own food, animal. And all the organisms which have the cell wall, plant kingdom. And they do not have the cell wall, animal kingdom. So all these criteria are used. See, plants or cell wall, if you take fungi has a cell wall. Fungal cell has cell wall. So it is kept under plantain. But fungi do not have chlorophyll, they cannot prepare their own food. So how can we keep them in the plant kingdom? Because plant kingdom, all the autotrophs, organisms which can prepare their own food. Okay? Then if you take bacteria and Chlamydomonas, both are, bacteria also have the cell wall. And some of the bacteria can prepare food, some of the bacteria are heterotrophs. Some are autotrophs, some are heterotrophs. And the Chlamydomonas, it has chlorophyll, it is unicellular, it can prepare its own food. So, this bacteria, whether it can be kept under autotroph or heterotrophs. All these conclusions lead to the failure of this two kingdom classification. Okay? So, these are the drawbacks of, to avoid this one, much more research they have done, and the next 5 kingdom classifications is proposed by Vitakar. Okay? Five kingdom classification. It is done by Vitakar. He considered to do this 5 kingdom classification cell complexity. Cell complexity in the sense, he found all the living organisms, unicellular and multicellular. In unicellular, some have definite nucleus with a nuclear membrane, some they don't have nucleus with a nuclear membrane. So he classified this all the unicellular into 2 categories, prokaryotes and eukaryotes. All the unicellular which do not have a definite nucleus with a nuclear membrane are kept under prokaryotes. All the organisms which have the definite nucleus with a nuclear membrane are kept under eukaryotes. So if you take these eukaryotes, again we classify them on the basis of nutrition. Those who can prepare food, they cannot prepare food. Then on the basis of the cell wall, those who have the cell wall, those who do not have the cell wall. So all these criteria he considered for doing this classification. So all the prokaryotes, if you see, most of the bacteria comes under prokaryotes. So he kept them in a separate kingdom, Monera. Okay, Monera includes all the prokaryotes. What are prokaryotes? Organisms which do not have a definite nucleus with a nuclear membrane. Then all the other eukaryotes, again he classified unicellular and multicellular. All the unicellular which have the definite nucleus with a nuclear membrane are kept under Protista. Okay, then the remaining multicellular and unicellular, all the organisms which can prepare their own food will come under plantain. But if you take the fungi, they have the cell wall, but they cannot prepare their own food. So he gave fungi as a separate kingdom. Fungi are separate kingdom which have the cell wall but cannot prepare their own food. multicellular as well as unicellular. Then autotrophs. All the autotrophs are kept under Plantae. All the heterotrophs are kept under Animalia. So these 5 kingdoms, we classify all the living organisms into 5 categories, 5 kingdoms: Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae and Animalia. Okay. So here we are going to discuss one by one. Monera, kingdom Monera we are going to discuss. And Protista, Fungi, Plantae and Animalia. Okay, Animalia alone separately as your next lesson we will see. Up to this, one by one we are going to discuss. Okay. Next, kingdom Plantae. Kingdom Plantae include all the plants, all the organisms which can prepare their own food. All autotrophs will come under kingdom Plantae. This kingdom Plantae is divided into 2 categories on the basis of the production of flowers. On the basis of reproduction, non-flowering and flowering. All the plants which will not produce flower, without producing the flower if they reproduce, they are kept under non-flowering plants. All the flower-bearing plants, flowering plants are kept under one category. And non-flowering plants are called as cryptogams. Flowering plants are called as phanerogams. These terms will not be there in your book, but in higher classes you will be studying. Non-flowering plants, cryptogams. Flowering plants are kept under phanerogams. These cryptogams, again, on the basis of the external morphology, they are divided into 3 categories: Thallophyta, Bryophyta, Pteridophyta. Thallophytes are the cryptogams which body cannot be differentiated into leaf, stem, root. For example, if you take Chlamydomonas algae, all the algae will come under Thallophyta. Chlamydomonas also algae, Spirogyra is an algae. Chlamydomonas is unicellular, Spirogyra is multicellular. If I take a plant and ask you to show that parts, leaf, stem, root, like that you can show. But here, Chlamydomonas, we cannot say which is leaf, no stem and all, just one cell, unicellular. Here, the thallus, it is made up of number of cells, but it is arranged, the cells are arranged one above the other, form a long thread-like structure called thallus. So, plant body of algae is called thallus. So, here also we cannot differentiate leaf, stem, root. So, all the non-flowering plants which body cannot be divided into, cannot be separated into leaf, stem and root are kept under Thallophyta. The next, all the cryptogams, all the non-flowering plants which have root-like, stem-like, leaf-like structure. Why like I am telling? Externally they look like root, look like stem, look like leaves. But if you take the internal structure and observe it under the microscope, they will not resemble the real root, stem and leaf. Okay. So, all these plants are kept under the category Bryophyta. And Bryophyta, liverworts and mosses. See, liverworts, it is just green color, flat structure. Okay. Dorsiventrally flattened, dichotomously branched. And these will look like leaf. But if you take the section and observe it at the microscope, inside the internal, the anatomy will not be like a real leaf. Same like that here, moss, see, this one is looking like root, this one is looking like leaf, and this one is looking like stem. But all these sections under the microscope will not resemble the real root, stem and leaf. So all these cryptogams which have the plant body, leaf-like, root-like, stem-like structure are kept under Bryophyta. Then, all the non-flowering plants, cryptogams, which have real root, stem and leaf. Externally as well as internally, they have the root, stem and leaf. The plant body can be divided into root, stem and leaf. Are kept under Pteridophyta. P is silent here, Pteridophyta. And they have the vascular tissue, xylem and phloem. So, they are also called as vascular cryptogams. Pteridophytes are called as vascular cryptogams. Thallophyta and Bryophyta are called as non-vascular cryptogams because they don't have the vascular tissue, xylem and phloem. Whereas here they have the real stem, root and leaf. They have the vascular tissue, so they are called as pteridophytes are called as vascular cryptogams. Flowering, non-flowering, flowering, non-flowering are called cryptogams. Cryptogams are further divided into Thallophyta, Bryophyta, Pteridophyta. Thallophyta, all the non-flowering plants which plant body cannot be differentiated into leaf, stem and root are kept under Thallophytes. All the plants which have leaf-like, root-like, stem-like structure are kept under Bryophytes. All the non-flowering plants which have real root, stem and leaf but they will not produce flowers. Because of that only they are kept under cryptogams. But they have the vascular tissue also. So they are called as pteridophytes. They are kept under pteridophytes. Pteridophytes are vascular cryptogams. Thallophytes and Bryophytes are non-vascular cryptogams. Then comes the flowering plants. Flowering plants are called as phanerogams. These phanerogams, the flowers are being, if you take the flower structure of the flower, calyx, corolla, androecium and gynoecium. Androecium and gynoecium are essential part of the plant. So this androecium and gynoecium are produced either in the flower or in cones. If they are produced in the cones, they are cone-bearing plants, cone-bearing phanerogams. They are called as gymnosperms. All the flowering plants which produce androecium and gynoecium in the cone, they are kept under gymnosperms. And one more thing also, in gymnosperms, the seeds are not covered by the ovary. So they are also called as naked seeded plant. Flowering plants, they produce the flower bearing plants. All the flowering plants which have androecium and gynoecium in the flower, they are flower bearing plants. They are called as angiosperms. If the androecium and gynoecium are produced in cones, they are gymnosperms. If the androecium and gynoecium are produced in flowers, they are angiosperms. And angiosperms, the ovule is covered, the seed is covered by the ovule. Okay? Then angiosperms on the basis of number of cotyledons, they are further classified into two, dicotyledonate and monocotyledonate. Dicots will have two cotyledons, germinating seeds. I already have studied about the structure of the seed, germination and all. All the flowering plants which have two cotyledons are kept under dicotyledons. All the flowering plants which have single cotyledon are kept under monocotyledon. Okay, so this is how the kingdom Plantae is being classified. Okay, non-flowering, flowering, cryptogams and phanerogams. Cryptogams again Thallophyta, Bryophyta and Pteridophyta. Phanerogams, gymnosperms and angiosperms. Angiosperms again grouped into dicots and monocots. Okay, so with this we are finishing your classification lesson part 1. The next lesson we are going to see classification of animal kingdom. Okay, bye.